NateDog033 here. Paramount didn't like what I had to say about their movie, so they made a copyright claim to the footage I used, forcing YouTube to block it. The joke's on them. All I had to do was re-record this rant without the scene. So let me recap what I said in the first rant. First, let me just make it clear. I'm not a G.I. Joe fan. I just happened to be with a friend who was on his way to see this piece of garbage anyway. In my first rant, I said the G.I. Joe movie made 4 mistakes, and it was a combination of the 4 that caused me to walk out of the theater. There are 4 rules that I follow when I go to see a movie, and G.I. Joe made the mistake of breaking all 4. Rule number 1, adaptations suck. They don't even bother trying to write good stories or create decent characters. All they're doing is trying to make money off of a name that already has an established fan base. Rule number 2, adaptations should look like the original. If you're gonna make an adaptation and give it your own look, then make your own fucking movie. I'm not a Joe fan, but I know enough to know that they changed way too much. You could have changed the names of all the characters, both the teams and the movie, and it could have been its own cheesy little film with cool special effects and a very thin story. There's no reason this had to be called G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra. Which brings me to rule number 3. All movies should have a decent, well-written story. Now this is where it gets kind of tricky, because if you have a decent story, then I don't care what the movie looks like. The X-Men series is a great example. I'm not a fan of that either, but I know enough to know that a lot has been changed, but the stories had me gripped, and every time I watch one of those movies, I can't stop watching them. Now if they were able to do something like that for G.I. Joe, then I wouldn't care about rule number 2. But the plots for the G.I. Joe cartoons and comics were paper thin as well. Cobra does something bad, G.I. Joe has to stop them. The movie was pretty much like the cartoon. It starts off with Cobra stealing a weapon, then later they used it to attack the Eiffel Tower. The special effects were cool, but the story was pretty weak. Well, the writers could have used Edgar Allan Poe's formula for writing a story. He said the best place to start is in the middle. It would have been far more interesting to start off with the attack on Paris, France, then show scenes of how Cobra got the weapon as a flashback as we backtrack and try to figure out how the hell all this got started. But what the fuck do I know, right? Sorry if you all don't agree with me, but those are the rules that I look for when I go see a movie. And they broke rule number 4, and rule number 4 you don't break. Otherwise, I am just going to walk out of the movie. If at this point you've broken the other 3 already. And I know what you're all thinking, haha, they got your money anyway, whatever. Rule number 4, don't put a stupid scene in your movie. The Paris chase scene was a stupid scene. People are getting killed, and it's G.I. Joe's fault. I'm sorry if we don't agree, but that's what it looked like to me. Basically, the Baroness and Storm Shadow are in a souped-up Hummer, smashing into innocent people's cars to get the Joes off their tail. The Joes continue the pursuit even after they figure out where the Hummer is heading. Soon as that scene began, the first thing that I thought of was, if I were in that situation, I would have found another way to the Eiffel Tower and beat them to it, instead of allowing Cobra to keep using cars full of civilians as living projectiles to hit me. I'm pretty sure that Cobra would have stopped smashing into cars once they thought that no one was chasing them. At least that's the way I would have handled the scene if I were one of the writers. Instead, Duke and his buddy keep chasing after them in their Halo suits, jumping over cars full of dead families going to a picnic, dead men and women just going to work, and laughing about it. One of them even eventually winds up jumping through a train instead of over it, putting more lives at risk. Then they joke about it later. Stuff like that is funny in comedies like Superhero Movie, when the kid who gets superpowers saves an old lady but accidentally kills her. But this isn't a comedy, so I'm not laughing. And I know what you're going to say to that. It wasn't the Joe's fault, it was Cobra doing it, they're evil. Well, my answer to that is, it looked to me like Cobra was doing it to get the Joes off their tail. You and I might disagree, whatever. That's what it looked like to me. And as far as I'm concerned, once G.I. Joe figured out what was going on, you, me, and anyone else in that kind of situation where your presence is causing civilian casualties, we would have figured out another way to do things. We wouldn't have stayed there letting people be used as live weapons. Come on. No one was dying. It was just a movie. Okay, then what's the point of going to the movie if I'm not supposed to get into the scene? I mean, I know when a cartoon like this jumps to a live-action movie, villains will cause more death and destruction, but they shouldn't get help from the heroes to do it. We'll just go to the movies to escape then. It's all fantasy. Okay, so I escape from a world where soldiers allow civilians to die by going to the movies to watch soldiers allow civilians to die. You should watch the rest of the movie. You might change your mind. No! I can counter everything you will say about this movie. I've made my mind up about it. You can't make me change my mind. If you liked it, fine. I didn't. I'm not here to make friends, and I'm not here to change your mind. I'm just trying to finish part 2 of a video rant I posted earlier. I treated this film like watching a lousy movie on TV, but instead of turning it off, I left. Why should I wait for it to get better? Because I spent money on it? What does anyone gain by sitting in a movie theater watching a film they don't like? It makes no sense. You really have to finish watching it. The special effects were awesome. First of all, this isn't the only movie in existence. I have my choice to see other movies with better characters, better stories, and effects that are just as special. Second of all, I hate it when someone says I have to watch a movie that they liked and I didn't. Here's my answer to that. I have to eat. I have to drink. I have to sleep. I have to shield myself from the elements to survive. I don't have to see the G.I. Joe movie. It's not necessary for human survival. Last of all, if this movie was all about special effects, then don't waste my time with a lousy plot. I'll wait until it comes out on DVD, borrow it from one of you idiots, so I can skip to the good parts. I still won't like this movie. Special effects don't make a good movie. Not to me. Give me a storyline that I can get into. They should just stop making movies with plots and characters and just show special effects for 2 hours. I would actually like to see that. Don't lie to me and tell me there's a story here. Just show lasers and spaceships and explosions for no reason. That would actually be kind of cool. Just stop with these bullshit stories since no one knows how to write good ones anymore. Hey, which brings me to another rule that movie makers should follow. Don't false advertise. For once, I would like to see a bad movie actually advertised as a bad movie. Maybe I'll go see it, and maybe it won't piss me off. I didn't mention that rule earlier because G.I. Joe didn't seem to make a big stink about itself. We all knew it was going to be bad, but that Paris chase was just too ridiculous for me. See, I can counter every dumbass comment you morons can come up with, which is why I turned my comments off for this video. I am sick of reading the same things from different people, worded differently, over and over again. You like the movie? Then you watch it. Whatever. Anyway, now you know the scene that made me walk out of this piece of shit movie. I had more to say, but I have read the comments on the trailers for this flick, and they're all positive. And my first rant on how I felt about this flick got a negative response. So apparently I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, I didn't like this movie. Sorry if we don't agree. But it is, after all, my opinion. I had to finish this up because I already had one rant on it, and it's not like me to leave a project half finished. But now that it's done, I can go back to living life and avoid the movies altogether. I've got better things to do. Now you know.